Hello, everybody. We are almost through 2020. This is the last episode of 2020, and this is going to be a good way to round it up. We got, I'm going to do a 2020 kind of year in review. My apologies for anybody that was, really looking forward to yesterday's episode. We had some last minute, reshuffling of the deck, and I ended up just kind of going a different route for today's episode. So, everybody, thanks for bearing with me and just understanding that, if 2020's taught us anything, it's to adjust on the fly and to, be able to land on your feet whenever things change. I think that's definitely a major takeaway and theme of 2020. Is just the ability to, adapt on the fly, the ability to adjust, the ability to survive, the ability to keep the show going. The show must go on, as they say. I think that's so how fitting, that the 2020 year in review episode kind of embodies some of those very themes. So, I am. But yeah, that's part of the game, and we're gonna get this episode started off. You know how we like to do. We like to keep it 420 friendly here on Dreadful Talk Podcast, and so feel free to partake along with me, or do what you do. Do what you do. I would never pressure anybody or shame anybody for either doing something or not doing something. This is how I like to get my mind right to have a good time with you guys. Got some nice motor breath concentrate right there. Hit it with the little silicone nectar collector. And yeah, 2020. What a fucking year. I know everybody's acting for some reason like when we wake up tomorrow, we're going to snap our fingers and poof and sunshine and rainbows come out, Corona goes away. So I don't understand that thinking or that logic or that, marketing ploy or whatever you want to call it. I don't really understand what's necessarily changing. But just what I love about as I get older, when you're younger, high school, college, whatever, early 20s, New Year's is just about getting lit and getting fucked up and turning up and, having somebody to kiss at midnight and all that stuff. And, that's fun. Not shaming, anybody, that's fun. Who doesn't like that stuff? But, as I get older, New Year's Eve becomes more about reflection and just looking at, a growth through a year, the trials and tribulations of a year, as simple as, looking at where you started and looking where you ended up. And, this year, that's meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me personally, I don't really think it's controversial because I think that a lot of people in certain, zoomed in, selfish ways, I think 2020 has been good for a lot of us. Obviously, RIP to all those that have lost, obviously those that have lost their businesses, people in the restaurant and service industries probably don't share that same sentiment. And that's not to disparage anybody or act like, I'm somehow different. I just happened, the cards happened to fall differently for me and it kind of worked out in my favor. I believe it or not, I'm going to look back on 2020 fondly. Like I said, I know not the most popular opinion or take. I know everybody's saying this is the worst year ever and everything. I think the reason why I'm not having those overreaction worst year ever takes, obviously, like I said, it worked out kind of good for me. I'll be real. But B, on the flip side of that, I'm also a student of history. I love history. I've been a history nerd since I was a little boy. My mom always likes to tell funny stories of when we first got cable installed. Because I didn't always have that shit. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon like some of you motherfuckers. But when we first got cable installed, like a lot of parents, my mom was, worried that I may tune into some inappropriate programming or whatnot. And she would hear violence and gunfire coming from my room, but I would always be on the History Channel and shit like that. So, she would let it slide. So, I just say all that to say, like, I'm a history buff, I'm a history nerd, some may say, and I'm a big fan of just knowing my own history, and I'm a big fan of everybody knowing history, and the whole if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it type of thing, and it paints such a clearer picture of how we ended up where we ended up. I know everybody. I get asked that all the time. Well, fuck, how did we end up here? Why is this everything sucks so bad? It's like, well, I mean, it's all right there in literally recorded history in the language that you speak. So I mean, there's not really, especially in the internet age, the smartphone age, the public library age, even, like, there's not really a reason to not know your history. I mean, I get it. There's only so many hours of the day, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think people should know their history. I'm a big fan of knowing my history, and I'm just gonna say it. There's been a lot worse years, people. And everybody likes to act like stuff is so long ago, but it's really not. Like, I know Joe Rogan always talks about this, but like all of recorded history is just like a blip on the map. I mean, we only have 10,000 years of recorded history, which some people would say, oh, 10,000 years, that's a lot. But in the context of millions or if not billions of years the planet's been around, I mean, it's nothing. And then you go to like what's been recorded in the English language, and that's even shorter. And then people act like stuff was so long ago, and it really wasn't. And so I mean, think about this. It's not the worst year ever, people. Like, let's pause on the hot takes of worst year ever. I mean, there was the actual plague. Let's not forget the actual plague. I mean, just the absolutely horrific American Civil War. Oh, that was so long ago. Not really. For a lot of us, that's 4 or 5 generations ago. That's our, great-great-grandparents or their parents. I mean, it wasn't that long ago as people like to make it seem. 1865. It's like 160 years ago. The average person's life is, about 80 years. It's like 2 lives back to back. Not that long. But you got to put stuff in context. I know everybody, thinks the world revolves around them, or the time we're living in now is the only time that ever mattered. Or I have like I said, my love of history gives me a different perspective, and then I mean, hell, even in like our grandparents, great grandparents generation, there was World War I and World War II and the Great Depression, all within like a matter of 15 years. Whole towns dying, just some of the absolutely most horrific brand of warfare ever fought in the trenches of Europe. Just people dying for countries in wars that had nothing to do with them. Now, myself being a fan of history, World War II is probably the most just war ever fought, at least to my knowledge, one of the most just wars, especially from the American perspective. One of the few wars that essentially wasn't unnecessary, in my humble opinion. And so let's just not forget, like, my grandpa fought in World War II, like, against actual Nazis, and like Pearl Harbor, getting attacked. Like, I know we've had 9/11 and getting attacked by terrorists or like domestic terrorists, but getting actually attacked by a nation's army, that happened our grandparents' generation not that long ago. So I just think we really need to pump the brakes on the whole worst year ever thing. Now, worst year, from a societal perspective of my lifetime, definitely. But I'm 26 years old. Like, that doesn't mean shit. I mean, even like my mom, they went through like the AIDS epidemic and Vietnam. I mean, my mom was a baby in Vietnam, but you know what I'm saying? Like, Vietnam was like 1 generation ago. Mandatory draft, mandatory service, and it's especially impacted communities of color. Like, I mean, like, like the lynchings of the 30s and the 40s, and I mean, I know lynchings still happen, but I mean, so like when people are just so quick to say worst year ever because you had to do some Zoom calls and wear a mask, like last time I checked, no nukes went off in 2020. It was in 1944 or 1945, we had nuclear bombs dropped on cities, And you can debate whether that was just or wrong or whatever. I know there's different sides of that perspective, but like, let's just cool it with the worst year ever talk. I think that's such a whack, just lazy way to frame 2020 as far as worst year ever. It wasn't the worst. Like, factually, it's incorrect. It's lazy. Now, was it different? Was it unexpected? Was it, for those that lost loved ones to the virus, was it tragic? I mean, for those that had to lose their business, was it tragic? Yeah, I can understand saying, like, for an individual, worst year ever. Like, yeah, if you lost your whole family or lost your family's business, or I could see, like, yeah, say worst year ever, but just like on a societal bigger level, not worst year ever. Not for like the human race, not even, I don't think, for America as a country. Not worst year ever. So, I'm kind of beating that dead horse, but I think it's important. Like I said, that's all anybody's saying. Like, there's like, commercials about it, and it's just like really trendy. Like, oh, thank God 2020's over, ha! And it's just like, A, the pandemic ain't ending tomorrow, folks, and B, wasn't worst year ever. A lot of good things happened to a lot of good people this year, and that's what I'm going to try to focus on. So we're going to start in the before time. Way back when in January. Seems like a lifetime ago. Like legitimately, my life has changed so much since January 2020 that, I mean, it almost feels like when I was looking back on like my memories and taking notes for this episode, like it almost felt the same as like looking at pictures from high school and college. Like it just seemed like a world removed. Like it just seemed so long ago. So like I know I'm saying like not worst year ever, but like, longest year ever. Hey, I might be willing to discuss that one with you. Like in January, me and my wife Nina, we went to 2 Sacramento Kings games. We went against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Orlando Magic. We were in a stadium full of 20,000 people watching basketball. This was pre-NBA bubble. We're already in a new NBA season. And like, so the calendar year of 2020, the sports seasons are going to make it seem super weird too. And everybody knows I'm a big sports fan. I have my UFC podcast, Beefy Boys Breakdown. So a lot of today's episode is going to be kind of not only, I'm going to look at societal stuff, but I'm going to look at the year through like a sports lens as well. And like I said, in January 2020, I was at an NBA game. No mask, no social distancing, full fucking stadium capacity. That amazing, beautiful stadium. It's only a couple of years old up in Sacramento. It's a great place to check out a game. Super, reasonably priced tickets. It's dope to check out a Kings game if you're ever up, in that area. And so yeah, in January we were at Kings games, and then what actually reminded me of this, one of the second Kings game we went to was like the remembrance, like on the outside of the stadium. It was like Mamba night because Kobe had just died. Kobe Bryant. We lost Kobe Bean Bryant January 26, 2020. And I definitely want to spend some time, talking about Kobe. Now, I want to frame this in the context of I did not grow up a big Kobe fan. I actually grew up like a Kobe hater. Like I was an Allen Iverson fan. And I didn't follow basketball as closely as a young kid either. I didn't really get into basketball until like those Durant, Westbrook, OKC Thunder teams in like the 2010s. That's when I really started to pay attention to basketball. And for those that know, I'm originally from Oklahoma City. So like whenever we got a team, it just put it more in the forefront, more into like our sports lexicon. And just I really became an NBA fan, fell in love with it. And But yeah, so I didn't grow up a Kobe fan. I grew up kind of a Kobe hater, and I'll say that kind of like it's kind of funny to think about now. But he was just so good, right? Like, why do we hate athletes? We're like the best ones that won't lose and beat our favorite team. So I mean, I didn't like hate the man, but just like the on court, he was such a killer. He just would make your favorite player look like trash, make your favorite team look like trash. Yeah, and just he had so many fanboys and dick riders, like even in Oklahoma, 1,000, 1,500 miles away from LA, and there was still so many Kobe fanboys. That was his reach, that was his legacy on multiple generations, including my own. The number switch, like he's almost has like 2 separate careers. Like people like to split Barry Bonds' career up, like pre-steroid and post-steroid. Like Kobe kind of did that with the number split, the 8. It's like he has 2 separate Hall of Fame careers, super amazing. And just, but I say all this as far as not being a Kobe fan when I was younger and stuff, because by the end of it, and this isn't hindsight 2020 or just trying to say the right thing when somebody passes. Like, no, like after post-retirement Kobe, I became such a fan, probably because he's not busting my favorite teams and players' ass anymore. But I just became such a fan of the man. I could see, he let us kind of behind the mask a little bit and was just doing so much with his daughter, R.I.P. Gigi. And we got to see the father and the businessman and the analyst, and I was absolutely falling in love with the man that Kobe Bryant was becoming. And the tragic helicopter accident that took the life of him and a whole other family and his daughter too, and god damn it. Fucking what an omen, right? Like, I know it was saying 2020 wasn't the worst year ever, but it definitely wasn't the best year ever, and what a shit way to start it off with losing Kobe in January. Doesn't that seem like I know it said January seemed like a lifetime ago, but the Kobe death doesn't seem like that long. Like, that wound still seems pretty fresh, and like it hasn't scabbed over yet for myself and a lot of other sports fans, a lot of other Americans, a lot of other people around the world. That's another thing about Kobe. Worldly man, spoke I don't even know how many languages, like legit. I know it was like Italian, Spanish. He would say shit to Luka in Slovenian, maybe some Chinese, like some Asian languages too. God damn it, what a genius of a man, Renaissance man, gorgeous human being. R.I.P. to Kobe Bean Bryant. And so much stuff has happened since January that I forgot, and I bet a lot of you guys forgot too. World War III almost started in fucking January. I remember being at work like legit nervous if like either nuclear war or World War III was going to bust out in January, because we drone struck an actual, not like a terrorist, like an actual member of the Iranian army, like an actual officer, like a head guy of their army. That's how you start a war, and we avoided it. They ended up bombing one of our bases. I don't think anybody died. I think some guys got concussions. Hey, if that's all that comes out of it to avoid World War III, I'm glad. Sorry, you never want to see a soldier get hurt, but I think if we could avoid I think even those soldiers would volunteer a concussion to avoid World War III and nuclear holocaust. So we almost had World War III, folks. It was a crazy year when we almost had World War III, and that just, didn't even register. I had to look back and be reminded of that. Jesus Christ. Moving on to February 2020. Now, listen, everybody wants to think of all the negative that happened in 2020. 2020, I got to witness something, one of the coolest things I never thought I'd get to witness. And that's, I watched a former teammate of mine and a man I consider a friend, George Kittle. I watched him play in the Super Bowl. And the Niners played the Chiefs in this year's Super Bowl, right? Seems like a lifetime ago. I feel you. But the Niners played the Chiefs in February 2020, the Super Bowl. And yeah, George Kittle, I played high school football with George Kittle. I consider him a friend. He's a busy man nowadays. I'm not going to act like we hang out and talk every day, but he got love for me. I got love for him. I'm a big fan of that guy. I love watching him succeed. Seriously, if you don't want your friends to be as successful as George Kittle, then you're a bad friend. Seriously, get that hate, get that envy out of your heart. I love watching George Kittle play on Sundays. The fact that me and him both ended up in Santa Clara County is pretty cool, unique. Played at Norman High School, with me and my podcast partner Harrison from Beefy Boys played with us too, and then earlier in the season, last season, I got to I went to the Browns Niners Monday night game with our other teammate Dylan Stout. Shout out Dylan Stout and the whole Stout family, good ass people, and me and my boy Dylan. We watched the Monday night game, and then afterwards we got to kick it with George. We got to. I met CJ Beathard and Garrett Selleck that night. It was a cool ass night. Got to say hi to George's family. The Kittles, wonderful people. That shit is not an act. Great dude, one of the good dudes of the NFL. So I got to watch my friend play in the Super Bowl. Never thought I'd get to say that. I was so happy and just thrilled watching. It didn't end up the way But they're playing Patrick fucking Mahomes. That's a hard guy to beat. Hard to hold it against him. But yeah, watched my friend playing the Super Bowl. Most people don't get to check that off their list, and that was a great memory of my 2020. Like, I look back on that very fondly. I had my 2-year anniversary of being with my wife, or not be at that point she wasn't my wife. Talking about a lot happened in 2020. Me and my girlfriend Nina marked 2 years together in February, and so February is whenever COVID started to get really bad in China, and we were starting to hear like whisperings of like, oh shit, like, there's the coronavirus thing, and it's in China, and if it gets over here, it might get ugly. But nothing was shut down yet in February. It was just starting to make its way over. So once again, seeming like a lifetime ago as far as on the COVID front. Now March. I say this because this is kind of planted the seed of how I even started my podcast. That all started, so there's a sports radio station here in the Bay Area, 95.7 The Game. Big fan of all the, shout out Damon Bruce, shout out Guru Johnson. I love listening to y'all. Butcher Boy, Joe Shasky. Big fans of all you guys, if you guys ever managed to hear this. And they had a dream job competition where you get to like film a clip of yourself and mail it in, and you could win a job to actually be like a sports talk radio host. And I never enter contests. Like, I never entered like free concert tickets. I don't do shit like that. I don't do raffles. I don't really play the lottery. Like, that's just not my thing. But this one, the way it was set up, it wasn't like random. Like, if you were good, you could get picked. Like, you had agency. Like, you had be good and you could get picked. So I was like, fuck, I'm gonna enter this. And I recorded my clip, and I made a fatal flaw. And I'm not saying I would have won if I didn't do this, but it was pretty stupid of me. I forget what even my topic was. I think maybe it was like Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time or some shit like that. Like, you had to like argue like a hot take or something like that. I forget exactly what my point was, but I do remember that it had nothing to do with Bay Area sports at all. And like, there's this website where you can like go watch the entries, and everyone else was talking like Bay Area sports teams, and it's a Bay Area sports radio station. So no wonder I didn't get picked. Duh. That was stupid on my part. But I thought I did a really good job as far as how I talked and even how I looked on the camera and how I was like, man, like, even I started thinking, as the weeks went on and it became obvious that like I wasn't one of the finalists, I was like, damn, like, I don't want to necessarily close the door on that. And I've always been a big fan of listening to podcasts for years now. And so that sparked kind of the wheels in motion. Like, I didn't officially decide to start the podcast on that day, but like that little competition, I never would have started the podcast if I didn't enter that competition and essentially lose that competition, because I would have had like a full-time job essentially. So I entered that competition and I lost, but that's like the classic like hindsight 2020 where like me losing that competition may have been like the best thing that ever happened to me. So yeah, I wanted to mention that kind of birthed the idea of the podcast. Then in March is when shit hit the fan on our the good old Rona was here to stay. It was, people were dying. It was here. Like, pretty much our fears were being confirmed that it was gonna make it over from China. And in the COVID virus, like COVID shitstorm hit the fan in March of 2020. That's probably a month most of us will probably not soon forget. A lot of people's lives changed forever in a multitude of different ways. But March 2020, y'all, that's when the Rhone was officially, at the dance, at the party, and became a part of all of our lives and impacted every single aspect of our society. March 2018 will go down in the history books for sure. March 18th was my last day punching the clock. I actually went home from my job early, like before shit even shut down. I was working at a cannabis dispensary, which was deemed essential, but like before it was essential, the line was like around the block. It was like the most busy days ever. And it was before people were used to social distancing, masks weren't required yet, but like this virus was like a known thing. And I got like so paranoid and freaked out because I essentially had like 400 people like breathing on me in a day. And I remember I went home and I used all my sick days, all my vacation days. And then like 2 weeks later, they ended up doing like voluntary layoffs where I essentially got paid to quit. And but man, I was ahead of the curve as far as like, I was not trying to be like working with the public without masks and shit. It was before all the mandates and everything, social distancing. So I got sketched out and I said deuces, and I got paid pretty much to quit. And I saved most of that, and that kind of like, helped me out in this time. March 18th. I haven't worked since March 18th. That's 9 months, essentially 9 months ago. Fucking nuts. March 18th. So that day was the last day I punched the clock. I'm sure a lot of Americans have similar stories. Probably stopped working at around March, or maybe not, or got sent home working from home. I also gotta say, people, I fucking hated that job like a lot. Like I was getting really close to quitting and or beating up my manager like the weeks leading up to this. So like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say like that didn't factor in at all. If it was like my lifelong passion or a job I loved or a company I loved or anything like that, I may not have been so quick to jump the gun, but like, that's back when we didn't know how dangerous Corona was or anything like that. So you coupled those two factors together, I was like, I'm out, deuces. At the start of and back in March, the start of lockdown, start of Corona times, we're like doing all the wiping down the groceries and wearing gloves, and I might have even fucking wore bags over my shoes the fucking first day at the grocery store. We didn't know how to prepare. I was stocking up. I made like a doomsday kit. Like I had no idea. Like I'm kind of a conspiracy theorist. I didn't know how bad it was gonna get. Like it was whenever all the civil unrest was happening. I was like, oh shit, is this like the big enchilada? Like is this what sparks like the big, what a lot of people think may come one day in this country, is some kind of big societal upheaval, day of reckoning type of situation? I didn't know. And being out here in Cali, where it's essentially impossible to buy ammo or guns or anything, did not make me feel any more at ease. Also, can't talk about March 2020 without mentioning Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor died on March 13th. R.I.P. I'm going to mention a few more cases like this throughout this. It was such an integral part of our year and our society, and especially me being a person of color. Just wasn't the first, wasn't the last, but Breonna Taylor's death, sparked a ton of conversation and protesting and change, and even legislature changes, and just a whole shift started to happen, and unfortunately that wouldn't be the last tipping point of what continued that movement. But yeah, the Black Lives Matter movement, the opposition to that movement was, and in many ways had been brewing since long before I was born, but also in many ways was sparked off like the match was thrown onto the gasoline with the death of Breonna Taylor. So that happened March 13th, 2020. A day, many people, and especially in the black community, won't soon forget. Or unfortunately, if you do forget, because there's so many of them and it happens so often, then, it's hard to hold that against you. So obviously I didn't forget about Breonna Taylor, but I did forget that it happened way back in March. It's crazy that much time has gone by since she was shot, essentially, I think, in her sleep by the Louisville PD. When they found no drugs in the house. It was a no-knock warrant. I think no-knock warrants were ended as a result of this, which, good. That's super sketchy. R.I.P. Breonna Taylor. I can't talk about 2020 without mentioning that woman, and then the result and fallout of her death. Definitely left a huge impact on 2020, left a huge impact on all of us. R.I.P. Man, April was, looking back on it, like I said, it's hard. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I smoke too much weed, but I really do struggle with like remembering the timeline of like my year and like what months were good, what months were bad, when what happened. It kind of all just lumps together. And man, April was a good ass month for me. We got that first stimulus check. We got and I went hiking I went hiking in the Santa Cruz and all the mountains surrounding all the hills surrounding like the Santa Clara Valley and Santa Cruz County. Like I went hiking almost every day in all the gorgeous Northern California hills and the redwoods and the foothills of San Jose. April ended up being the best month. In hindsight, April was a good ass month for me. I hope you guys all had a wonderful April as well. Speaking of April, that's what month 420 falls in. I think it's about time for another Dabski. Feel free to join me or not. We don't discriminate. It's all love on Dreadful Talk, but I am a huge fan of cannabis. Also, I didn't even write this down. 2020 is the year I really fell in love with concentrates. It's not like I had never dabbed before, but I really started like purchasing my own. Like, I would always dab at friends' houses or, somebody brought some over or whatever, but I never really like would buy my own concentrates. Like 2020 fell in love with concentrates. For what it's worth, for those dabbers out there, but I love my flower too. Shout out to flower smokers. But yeah, I really started to understand the appeal of dabbing in 2020. Man, May was a huge month for me and a huge month for this country as a whole. May was my first ever Dreadful Talk. At the time, I really didn't know it was my first Dreadful Talk. I definitely should have like planned it better, and I debated if I even wanted to like consider that my first episode or not. It was super unprofessional. I was literally in my car, and it was birthed because many apartments and even small houses in the Bay Area and in the South Bay, especially stuff that was built like a long time ago, it's very, very common to not have an air conditioner. It's kind of also proof of global warming. When a lot of these houses were built, you didn't need an air conditioner in the Bay Area. But now in the Bay Area, it regularly reaches over 100 degrees. So, yeah, essentially kind of climate change, firsthand. But needless to say, in many, many households in the Bay Area in the summertime, it gets like unbearably hot. Like if you're in a room that the sun hit the side of the house that the sun hits, you're fucked. Get over 90 degrees in your house like that. It's miserable. And so, like I said, fans don't cut it. It's like legit damn near sauna. It's bad. And so I decided I got like a 3-pack of Tallboy Coors, and I went to go sit in my car. Wasn't driving drunk or anything. I just literally sat in my car with the AC on because I needed AC, and I went live with a case of Coors Light and just was drunk and talking shit and interacting with people on the live. And I said, if I knew it would have like turned into what it turned into, I never would have wanted my first episode to turn out like that. Like, honestly, I never even put it on YouTube or any other platform. Like, I wasn't, like, proud of it. And I knew there'd be certain people that see my page and, like, want to start from the beginning. And I did not want that to be the first impression. So, for those that watched that live, without even knowing it, that was the birth of Dreadful Talk Podcast. And I said I would have gone about it differently had I known of what would turn this into. But it's kind of, serendipitous or just funny or, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it. The kind of accidental birth of Dreadful Talk Podcast. And then I kind of just improved and focused and honed it down the further I went. But my first Dreadful Talk was in May 2020. Yeah, and then also some highs and lows of May 2020. George Floyd died on May 25th, 2020. And it's like, I would say not to beat a dead horse, but how do you think people feel when this keeps happening? Like we're the dead horse that's getting beat. You know, and I say we, I mean, you know, people of color in this country. And even if you're not a person of color, like, you know, I don't know if you want to say ally. I've always found that phrase kind of corny. But, you know, the good folks, the good white folks, the good people that's not out here being a part of the problem, the people that are being a part of the solution, come in every shape, gender, color, size, whatever. All the folks fighting the good fight. You know who you are. You know I'm not, like, you know, talking about you. But yeah, man, George Floyd dying really just because the wound from Breonna Taylor was fresh open. You know, Trump always saying stupid ass racist shit was adding fuel to the fire. We just had the whole very fine people thing a few years ago. It just was building. And then and in many ways, I mean, the straw that broke the camel's back was George Floyd's death. The violent, just brutal nature of watching Derek, fuck you, bitch ass Chauvin, step on that man's neck or kneel on his neck for 9 minutes or 8 minutes and 46 seconds or whatever the exact time was. It was fucked up to watch, especially like, man, like me being a fan of MMA and UFC and like, I mean, you get a blood choke in, because that's what it was. It wasn't an airway choke. It was a blood choke with a carotid artery. And I mean, I'm no doctor. I probably even said that wrong. But it's a blood choke that cuts off the blood flow to the brain when you're on the side of the neck as opposed to the throat. That's why there's all those different jiu-jitsu chokes that hit different angles. Like when you see somebody get submitted, it's not always that they can't breathe. That blood flow gets cut off in them arteries, then I mean you're gonna pass out whenever you want to or not, and that's after 10 seconds. I mean, it doesn't take long, and so to watch 8 minutes, like, I mean, you know, and then they'd had to have the audacity to say that's not why he died. Like, I watch people get choked professionally every fucking weekend, and they get pulled off after like 15 seconds at the most. Like, 8 minutes, like, that's nothing but, that's a lynching. That's a lynching with a knee. Just because there wasn't a rope doesn't mean that wasn't a lynching. So, yeah, George Floyd, that's another one. Put the match on the gasoline, you know, sent this country into, you know, turmoil. That's whenever the whole looter versus protester kind of conversation had gripped our country and, you know, kind of once again divided us further and drew further lines in the sand. We all remember the looter conversations, right? Those uncomfortable conversations with coworkers, aunts, uncles. And, you know, at least in my position, I'd be sitting here like, you know, traumatized over watching yet another black person die at the hands of police. And then you hear some, you know, asshole talking about, you know, stealing a $300 TV from Target it's insured, like, or I don't know, like as far as like the mom and pop businesses that got looted, I mean, which I feel was a very small number and was blown out of proportion and used as part of a narrative. Now, I do feel bad for those business owners, and I'm not saying I'm pro looting, but I am empathetic to trauma, and I've also witnessed black folks in this country try peaceful protests forever, before I was born. These same people that would be so mad at the violent protests and the looting were the same people that were mad at Colin Kaepernick's peaceful protest. The irony was not lost on many of us. Like if you don't listen to the peaceful, you don't get to like say somebody's an animal for being unpeaceful if they try. Like, you know, it's the classic example of like when we were in elementary school, somebody may relate to this, like some little kid like flicking the back of your neck. You ask him to stop nicely, you know, 5, 10, 100 times. And then on the 101th time, you turn around and sock him or do something, cuss him out, something drastic. That's all anybody talks about is the drastic part on the 101th time. Nobody ever talks about them first 100 flicks. And for anybody that still is having a hard time understanding the violent protest or the looting, that was flick 101. And that's the best, simplest way. I think if you don't understand that, then you're purposely not being empathetic, and you're essentially sticking your fingers in your ear and going la 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 la, because it's obvious, and it may not have been obvious at first, but now with some time and me just explaining it in a very simple, understandable way, I'm convinced if you don't get that, then you don't want to, and you know, I guess we can agree to disagree or whatever, but yeah, the George Floyd death, the ensuing riots and protest will forever be a part of, you know, history books. Like, I feel like those riots and protests, those pictures are going to be in the history book right next to Selma and the dogs and the water hoses of the 1960s. And in my grandkids' textbooks, it's still the same fight. For those that think that the civil rights movement had some put a bow on it, you know, happy Disney movie ending, we're still fighting that fight, and that was never more apparent than in the year 2020. I know the talk about that subject has kind of died down and whatnot, but the fight's still being fought, and the struggle is still just that, a struggle for many, you know, people of color in this country. The police interactions and the relationship with police and the actions of police still need to be addressed and changed in many places. I feel like a lot of lip service and hollow things have been said and done. I don't feel like anything was really nipped in the bud in many cities and many places. Still a lot of work to do, y'all. So whenever this happens again, because it will, don't act surprised or say, why are they doing this? You know exactly why. And because ain't shit changed. It's the same fight that our grandparents and their grandparents were fighting. It's the same fight. It's not a new fight. People keep trying to like frame it as like this new thing, and when it's a very, very old thing. But we'll keep it pushing to June 2020. June 6th, was essentially the day Beefy Boys Breakdown was born. I had watched the UFC 250 pay-per-view card. I was very intoxicated, and I was still kind of just figuring out this Instagram live thing, and I decided to go live after the fights. I was on my fucking front porch at like very late, midnight or whatever it was, drunk, and I was talking about the UFC fights. I want to say it was Amanda Nunes fought on that card, if I'm not mistaken. And I was just saying how great she was. And then my boy Harrison, this fella right here, he was one of the viewers of the live, and he had also watched the card. And after I ended the live, he called me, and then we proceeded to talk more about the fights. And he was a little bit buzzed too, or probably more than a little bit. And we drunkenly came up right there on that phone call. We said we were going to do exactly what Beefy Boys turned into. We were going to review every card, talk about every card the day after the card. We came up with the name right there on the phone. It happened so organically, and then with pretty much no looking back since. I mean, how many of us have had a drunken talk with one of our bros about some epic plan or something, some move to make, and it just never happens? It's just drunken bullshit talk. Myself included. I've done that more times than I care to admit. All fucked up. You come with the greatest plans ever, and then there's zero follow through, zero execution. But something about this idea, this concept, this movement of Beefy Boys Breakdown, we stuck to our guns, we followed through, and we've been there for you for each and every card since. So June was whenever Beefy Boys Breakdown was born. That'll be a special month in my memory for sure. Also, Harrison came on as my very first Dreadful Talk guest. I don't know how I didn't remember that. I thought my first guest was a few different people, but no, Harrison was my first guest on Dreadful Talk as well. And man, so Harrison, shout out to you. Shout out Harrison_Madden. Go give him a follow on Instagram, on Twitter. My fellow Beefy Boy on Beefy Boys Breakdown. Just that motherfucker's been a huge part of my 2020. A big part of any Beefy Boys fans 2020, and he's been as solid as they come. The follow through, the friendship, the loyalty. Shout out to that man, Harrison_Madden. Give him a follow. And you know what? So the first couple of episodes of Dreadful Talk weren't even called Dreadful Talk. I didn't have a name. I just kept saying, "Oh, I'm going live." Like, it's your boy Dominic. Like, I didn't follow, like, plan it all out as probably as much as I should have. It just kind of happened organically, which is kind of beautiful in its own right. But yeah, it wasn't until I think episode 5, June 14th, 2020 is whenever I officially started calling it Dreadful Talk. I came up with my name. I think I very shortly after got the logo made from the homie Dylan Walker Chargan. Shout out to him, man. Makes great music. Doing big things out on the East Coast. And then also my birthday. I'm a June baby. I'm a Gemini. No, I don't believe in any of that bullshit. But yeah, I was born. My birthday is June 18th. Fun fact about me: I was born on my mom's birthday. My mom's birthday is also June 18th. That's why those Roman numerals right there say 618 in Roman numerals. 618. It's my birthday. It's my mom's birthday. I turned 26 this year. Turned 27 next year. So yeah, I turned 26 this year. It was a fun birthday. Quarantine birthday. You know, I think I had like 2 people over. Cooked out in the backyard. Chilled on the patio outside. Socially distanced. First and hopefully last socially distanced birthday. But I don't know. Who knows where we'll be by next June. July is whenever I got this motherfucker made right here, which made me feel so legit. I felt like Joe Rogan himself when this motherfucker first came in the mail. Made me feel so goddamn legit. Ended up getting a great deal on it. I'm super happy with it. I think I want to eventually get a couple different like colors or iterations made. Any sponsors out there? You want your name on this? Holler at me. We can talk. I want to get a new one made. Love to have a sponsor come in with me on it. We can get your logo on there. Whatever. Be a good look. I'm definitely still looking for sponsors. In July, I got on this like pier fishing kick. I don't know. The ocean was calling me like Moana. I kept going. I went to the beach and fished off the pier. I don't know how many times in the month of July. And it was really fun because I hadn't fished since I was a little boy in Oklahoma pond fishing. And I had never fished in the ocean, which I know some, hardcore anglers out there are like, oh, pier fishing isn't fishing in the ocean. Yeah, yes, the fuck it is. It's salt water. It's literally fishing in the ocean. I'm not saying I'm like, deep sea fishing for marlin or anything. I'm not trying to, steal your thunder out there, anglers, but you can't tell me it's not fishing in the fucking ocean if my fishing line is literally chilling in the ocean, pulling fish out of the saltwater ocean. That's ocean fishing, especially to an Oklahoma boy like your boy. So that's what I'll remember about July. Went on this really fishing kick, beach kick around the ocean a lot. Shout out Santa Cruz, Davenport, Monterey. Gorgeous part of the country. Gorgeous beaches. NorCal beaches though, cold ass water. Definitely not Laguna Beach or even Venice for that matter. Definitely cold water. And 721. I had debatably still to this day my biggest guest on, and it's my really good friend, man. My best friend since like 7th grade. Papa Rod, man. Shout out Papa Rod. Look him up on Spotify. Run up his single, Hit 'Em Where It Hurts. And I think it's over 1 million spins now. Let's Run It Up even higher. It's an amazing song. He's doing big ass things in LA due to the music industry. Singer, model, actor. He was in a Doritos commercial with Post Malone. He had a brief shot in On My Block on Netflix. And he's doing big things in the music industry. Shout out to the good homie Papa Rod. PAWPAWROD. Look him up on Twitter, Instagram. Give him a follow. Give him some spins on Spotify. This song is legit a banger. Like I know, like Mina Kimes from ESPN's a fan of the song. Like it's a good ass song. Run up the spin. Shout out to Papa Rod for being one of my first guests and debatably still my biggest guest to this date. Looking to change that in 2021. No disrespect, Papa, but I'm trying to get some star power on here. But no, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was a fun episode, and it was a great year for you on the music numbers and just doing your thing, getting back into the music industry. Super happy for my boy. Like I said, if you don't root for your friends and you don't want your friends to succeed, or if you don't want your friends to be more successful than you, you're a bitch-ass hating motherfucker, man. You need to re-examine how you look in that life and your friendships. I want my friends to be stars. I want nothing but success for the people in my life and in those that I love. So shout out to Papa Rod. Go to the top, brother. You were born for it, man. Thank you for, blessing the podcast. And let me see. July 27th is whenever we got the Beefy Boys logo officially made. And it's so dope because I had this vision in my head of these cartoon cows that looked like me and Harrison wearing human clothes. I had this idea in my head. And when I described it to people, I felt like an insane person or just like it sounded stupid or it sounded so whack coming out of my mouth describing it. But in my head, it looked so dope and I knew that's what I wanted. And I could not be happier with my logo and how it came out. And I am totally blanking on the name of the person that made it for me, and I'm so sorry. I put it at the end of every single Beefy Boys video. So if you're happy with this logo, because I'm very happy with it, it came out exactly how I pictured it in my mind's eye. And I put the person who made this information up at the end of every single Beefy Boys video on YouTube. And I'm so sorry that it is slipping my mind at this moment. Something media, but I have a bunch of friends with media companies and they're all kind of blended together. So forgive me. I'm very happy with my logo. We got it in July. Huge moment for the Beefy Boys podcast and I'm so happy with the logo. Also got my truck stolen on July 30th. First time ever having a vehicle stolen. And then just to add a little razzle dazzle to it, I found out months later that it was my dad that stole the truck from me. Crazy story. There's a whole episode of the podcast about it. Go subscribe. Check me out, Dreadful Talk Podcast on YouTube. You'll see it literally says my dad stole my truck. I forget the exact number. I think it's something in the 20s. But yeah, I tell the whole story of the time my dad stole my truck. So 2020. First time having my truck stolen. First time having a family member steal my truck. First time having my dad steal my truck. Stories as fucked up and stupid as it sounds. But yeah, go check out that episode if you want to hear more about that. Got my truck stolen by my dad. Check. 2020, just, throwing more fun little gems and curveballs at you. So I hope nobody else got their truck stolen in 2020. If you did, at least I hope it wasn't your dad that stole it, because that was not fun to find out. Also, the UFC Fight Island fights started in July. That was a fun, different little spectacle as a fan of MMA, of a fan of the UFC, the Fight Island era in which they're going back to it. And I think it's going to be more of a regular thing now. But when it first happened, it was like, whoa, this is so cool. It's so crazy. It was kind of born because of COVID. A lot of fighters couldn't get in or out of the United States or their countries. So Abu Dhabi was easier for some of the European and Middle Eastern fighters to get in and out of. So yeah, the Fight Island cards were amazing. A lot of fun. Such a spectacle. I bought the t-shirt. I bought the mask. I got the Fight Island merch. I was a big fan of just the marketing ploy and everything the UFC did was Fight Island. It was a lot of fun. Shout out to the UFC for putting on all the amazing cards this year and giving the Beefy Boys Breakdown plenty to talk about and plenty of content for you guys. Thanks for everybody that's been a fan of Beefy Boys Breakdown. And if you're a fan of fighting, of MMA, of the UFC, and you haven't checked out Beefy Boys Breakdown, please go subscribe on YouTube. We get really in-depth in all the fights. We have a lot of fun. I mean, it's a really, really underrated podcast. I know it's douchey to call your own podcast underrated. The numbers are criminally low for the quality of content. And I know I'm tooting my own horn, but hey, sometimes you got to be your own biggest fan. Guys, go check out Beefy Boys Breakdown. My boy Harrison he is so knowledgeable, puts in a lot of work, and we have a lot of fun together. And then also, in July, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, and I know the whole Epstein didn't kill himself and all that shit kind of trend has passed for a lot of people. But some fucked up weird shit that we will never fully get the full story to, and conspiracy theories will abound, and everybody is going to act like they know the answer, but nobody truly knows the scope or the depth, and many would argue that's why Jeffrey Epstein got suicided, was because I think there was potential to blow this whole thing wide open even bigger, and some huge names and some huge things would have been, disrupted, and you said you can go down that rabbit hole. I actually encourage you to. Like, this is one of those conspiracy theories where there's actually meat on that bone. Like, you're not chasing ghosts or some wild goose hunt. Like, there's plenty there when it comes to the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I guess if you want to call it conspiracy, if you want to. I mean, the thing is, it is a conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy in, like, the legal term of conspiracy. Like, people were conspiring, like, you know what I'm saying, to do criminal acts, like, horrible, unspeakable criminal acts. So, like, it's a conspiracy in the actual definition of the meaning of the word conspiracy, not, like, tinfoil hat, like, bullshit, like, conspiracies, like, like the Sandy Hook crisis actors shit that's just kind of, like, out there and doesn't have too much legs to stand on. But I mean, that's a whole other conversation. I don't know where I stand on that, but I'm just saying there is meat on the bone in this whole Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, child sex, celebrity fucking. It's crazy, and I don't want it to get swept under the rug. I don't want it to be forgotten by history. I want to just bring it up that Epstein didn't kill himself, and fuck you, Ghislaine Maxwell, and like, yeah, and then it spawned the whole Save Our Children movement, which, like, weird white trash moms kind of took in a weird direction on Facebook, but hey, like, the whole QAnon got involved, and it got murky. It got murky, folks, but there's still plenty of real shit there. If you haven't watched the Epstein documentary on Netflix, please, like, watch it. Take the eyewitness accounts for it. Don't take my word for it. There's eyewitness accounts of girls that were 14, 15, 16 being sexually trafficked, raped, and molested by Epstein and his rich little friends. And Ghislaine Maxwell was, like, a huge part of that. So, fuck you, Ghislaine Maxwell. I hope you either get suicided too, but not before you get to take some people down with you. But you deserve horrible things, Ghislaine Maxwell. Fuck you. And, I would have loved to see Epstein, be able to testify or snitch or take more people down with him. But I'm not so horribly mad that the man got strangled to death by the gorilla of a man that they put him in a cell with and then turned off the cameras. Yeah, that happened. August 2020, I stayed at a haunted hotel. I say haunted in quotes. Now, my wife is way more tapped in with the spiritual shit than me. I feel like, I don't know, and I'm not an expert on this at all. I know some people, like to get way deeper into it than me. My official position on ghosts is that, like, I would love to see one. I've never seen one. I've never felt one. I've never seen anything haunted. And that included my stay at this haunted hotel. Like it was a normal hotel to me. I slept, I ate, I smoked, I did what I normally do. I didn't experience anything weird, but I'll say I'm not open. Like, I don't know spiritually or what it is that I'm closed off when it comes to the spiritual shit, but I'm closed off. Like, I don't be feeling that shit. I never felt God when I went to church. I never felt the Holy Spirit when everybody was faking and shaking with their hands and shit. I never felt anything at all. So maybe that's a me problem. Maybe I'm like closed off spiritually. But I stayed at a haunted hotel. Check that off my list. I didn't experience anything or feel anything. August 8th, I got engaged. Got my ring on. Obviously, I know the men don't put on rings when they get engaged, but we had a whopping 1 week long engagement. We got married the very next week. That's going to be funny. That's another funny, unique thing about me and my wife. Yeah, engaged for 1 week. We got it. We pretty much knew what it was. Like, we planned it all, but we had to like go through the steps and yeah, so we knew essentially we were getting married, but I was like, well, my mom was in town and I wanted her to be a part of like the engagement party and all that. So we got some champagne, had an engagement party, but it was pretty much like kind of planned out. But yeah, got engaged and then got married 7 days later. Got engaged on the 8th, got married on the 15th. Got married in the pandemic, which is cool because we wanted to elope anyway. Like, and I'll be real, largely due to money. I wasn't about to throw no $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 wedding so a bunch of assholes can come eat and drink for free. Like, to me, that's not what a wedding's about. Shout out to the people that do. I love getting drunk at you guys' shit for free. But yeah, we due to the pandemic, and honestly, probably even if there wasn't a pandemic, we were probably going to elope anyway. And we got married right on Emerald Bay, a gorgeous Lake Tahoe. Man, it was so amazing. Had my mom there, had my aunt there, had the little girl that needed nannies be the flower girl. The little boy was the ring bearer. Man, it was absolutely gorgeous. The pictures came out fantastic. Most importantly, my wife was super happy. She tears up every time she talks about it. It was an amazing wedding and just proof that you don't have to overcomplicate it, people. Like, you're not fucking royalty. You're not. Your Instagram may make you think that you are, or whatever the fuck complex you got, or inflated sense of arrogance, or whatever the fuck it is. But you're not the fucking queen of England. You're not a Kardashian. You're a normal fucking person, and you don't need everybody that went to 3rd grade with you that no longer gives a shit about you to be at your wedding. You know, it was very affordable. It was absolutely gorgeous still. Like, good luck finding a fucking building that's going to charge you $30,000 to rent it. That's as pretty as Emerald Bay Lake Tahoe. Good luck. It doesn't exist. Emerald Bay Lake Tahoe, literally one of the top like views in the whole probably Western Hemisphere. Doesn't get more gorgeous than Emerald Bay Lake Tahoe. And it was super affordable. I had my most important people there. You know, it was wonderful. It was gorgeous. So for all these people that are so bummed about having to postpone your fucking, you know, wannabe celebrity weddings or you know, or renting $40,000 venues for your wedding, it's a shitty use of money. Like, legit it is. And I guess that's what I've always wanted since I was a little girl. But why do you want that? You were probably told that by your cunty aunt or something. Like, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not shitting anybody. Have whatever wedding you want. But as somebody who managed to get married in a pandemic on a budget and still had it come out so amazing and dope, like, just, I mean, take it from me. And it's not just me, like, being like a husband, like, oh, I don't care about that shit. Like, no, my wife was super stoked about it, loved it. Highly recommend it, guys. Like, seriously, don't make the whole wedding shit out to be more than it has to be. But yeah, I got married in a pandemic. Don't regret it. It was amazing. It was beautiful. In August, Chadwick Boseman died. You know, played Black Panther, played Jackie Robinson in 42. was another, played Thurgood Marshall, all the icon, played James Brown. It's crazy the roles that he took on in his short time really in the limelight. Great actor. I'll never forget just whenever that movie first came out, Black Panther, that just like walking through Walmart and seeing like little black boys looking at the Black Panther toys, and like I know that sounds so cliche and like, oh yeah, right, that really happen? Like, yes, that really happened. I don't like walking through the store and seeing that first Halloween after Black Panther and all the little black boys in their Black Panther costumes and even little white boys in Black Panther costumes, like not even like back in the 90s, that would have been more of like a thing, like, oh, like that's Black Panther, like you're not black. Like nowadays I feel like that shit was beautiful for me to watch. Like maybe I'm making more out of it than I should, but man, like it was powerful just watching them little black boys see them Black Panther costumes, them Black Panther toys. It was a dope moment, like a powerful moment that, and it just like, pop culture can impact deeply in society. And, R.I.P. to Chadwick Boseman. He was just getting started. I'm sure that he would have, been the next, Morgan Freeman acting until the end of time, making countless amazing movies. I mean, he's phenomenal. R.I.P. It caught us all by surprise. He kept it to himself. Not a lot of people knew he was sick. It's really sad. Affected everybody. I don't think anybody was not sad that day. Seemed like a very nice, likable guy. Never really had any weird scandals or anything. Just dope guy. R.I.P. 2020 took a lot of good ones, y'all. And then in September, I had Patrick Murray, host of host of Today in the NBA podcast, on my podcast on September 15th, which is also my wife's birthday, and so that was a good day. But what a great wife she is for letting me do a 3-hour-long podcast on her birthday. But she understands how seriously I take this, and I'm dedicated to it, which is an amazing thing about her. And what you need a partner that supports you guys, and what you want to pursue. But I say that to take this moment to say I'm going to actually go on, return the favor. I'm going on Patrick Murray's podcast, Today in the NBA. I'm going to be on, January 7th is when we're recording it, but it'll be released, I believe, January 8th, that Friday. And we're going to talk some hoops. Great guy. Shout out Patrick Murray. Go check out his podcast, Today in the NBA. For those NBA fans, for those hoops fans, for those sports fans, for those podcast fans. Go support the homie. Now, September was also a special month for me because I rediscovered my love for skateboarding in the month of September. I got my board last Christmas, and it sat there for 9 months not getting used. I was honestly scared to hurt myself and have to go to the hospital and get COVID. I know that seems like a lot right now, but when that COVID thing first hit, I was taking all the precautions, but then eventually, I realized that, I was going to be okay and that I needed some exercise because my fat ass hadn't been to the gym since March. The gyms closed down here in the Bay Area since March, and they never really reopened, I don't think, or if they did, it was very briefly and short-lived. But I needed some exercise. I had this skateboard. I've always loved skateboard culture. Even before I started skating, I followed a million pro skaters on Instagram. I always loved growing up watching the X Games. I did skate as a young kid. I pretty much quit in middle school because I wanted to focus more on football, and I would have felt like an idiot if I would have hurt myself skateboarding and been out for football. So I pretty much pumped the brakes on it throughout middle school, high school, college, focused on my football career. But I always loved it. I always loved just watching it. I always loved, the video games, the culture, the clothes, the watching highlights and skate videos on YouTube and Instagram. And I've always been a fan. And I've always low-key kind of wanted to, get back on it. But got back into it. My first time back to the skate park was in September, and I re-sparked my passion for it. You can tell by my elbow. Check out that elbow bruise right there. And I love it. It's gotten me back in shape. I was really surprised at the mental benefits of it. It's the closest thing my distracted ADD ass is going to get to meditation. Believe it or not, skateboarding, meditating seem like very different things. But what meditation is the ability to push things out of your mind and kind of have like a nothingness occupy your mind. At least that's my understanding of it. Me, I get so distracted and just like most people in 2020, all the distractions and everything. Like, good luck getting me to sit still in a room by myself while some fucking Australian bitch is telling me to count backwards or whatever. Like that's not gonna work for me. So I never really, gave meditation much thought of mine. I mean, I knew everybody said it's good for you and that, but like while I'm skating, like literally, like not like while I'm at the park, but while my feet are on that board and I'm in a bowl or I'm focusing on a trick or whatever the case may be, like in those moments while I'm skating, everything besides not eating shit is pushed out of my brain. Bills due, the pandemic, the future, the past. All the shit that gives us anxiety and occupies us and distracts us, it all gets pushed out. Because if you're thinking about other shit, you're going to eat shit. And so it's like self-preservation mixed with meditation while I'm skateboarding. So for those that may think, skateboarding is just like a frivolous activity or something for little kids or something for punk teenagers, I mean, you might be shocked at, the mental and physical benefits of skateboarding. Like, I've leaned up a ton. I know I'm still a little thick, still a little beefy, but I mean, trust me, I've leaned up. It's been great for my cardio, get a great sweat in. Like I said, you get like this weird meditative clarity while you're skating. Like, even if you walk away from your skate sesh physically feeling like shit, you're gonna mentally feel great. And that's like that with a lot of workouts. But like I said, with the gyms being closed in a lot of places, hey, maybe not a bad time to pick up a skateboard. I know it's benefited my life greatly, and I'm so glad I did. And I got my first sponsor. I became a sponsored podcaster in September. Shout out to Zach Brown. I'm a great guy. If you need life insurance or property insurance or even help finding some property, some real estate help, Zach Brown in Norman, Oklahoma, great guy. No longer a sponsor, but we're on great terms, and it was for a great reason, and I appreciate it. I got these actually shirts made with that first sponsor money. So, yeah, shout out to Zach Brown, man. Thank you so much for believing in me and helping me grow the podcast. Also in September, speaking of just growing the podcast and the evolution of the podcast and the growth, I got on audio platforms in September. And so, yeah, if you're a person who maybe doesn't like watching long YouTube videos or wants to be able to close the app and still listen, Dreadful Talk and Beefy Boys are available on pretty much all audio podcast platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, like all those little podcast apps, even though more obscure ones. I get them on there, and I'm sorry if you can hear the dogs barking. I don't know what's going on out there, but sorry, got distracted. But yeah, I got both of the podcasts can be found on all audio platforms. So, and I recently put up a poll that said, do you prefer audio or video podcasts? And audio got more votes. So I don't know, but my audio numbers are lower than my video numbers. So all those people that voted on the poll, go check out my audio podcast on all your audio podcast platforms. And I got that up and running in September. So that was a big advancement for the podcast. A huge theme of my 2020 was just falling out of love in the Bay Area and in love with the Lake Tahoe area. I've been there 3 times already, if not 4, and I'm going back next week. Absolutely just fell in love with it, and it's so different from the Bay and San Jose, and San Jose has been a great, I'm so cool. I needed it, but I think in this next chapter of my life, I'm ready for like a new setting, new chapter, and I think we're gonna try to head over to like the Carson City, Tahoe area eventually. Let me see. In October, I placed my first in-person UFC bet at the Hard Rock Tahoe, and I lost. I think I lost every single bet I actually put money on this year. But listen to Harrison on the bets, not me. Because I be fucking arguing with his ass and being stubborn, and then I lose. So if I just listen to Harrison, I'd be a rich man right now. So don't be like me. Listen to the Beefy bet advice on the Beefy Boys breakdown. And once we get the website up and going for Beefy Boys, we're gonna have like a Beefy Bets like page that like gives Harrison's picks. So, and he's been really accurate this year. I got these shirts made in October, my first ever merch. Huge milestone for me. Shout out Denton Visual, at Denton Visual. He's the one that helps me with all my merch get made. Great to work with. Shout out you. You've been a lot of help to my 2020, man, and I'm looking forward to making more merch in the future. Shout out to everybody that bought one of these too. Post a picture in it. If you have Dreadful Talk or Beefy Boys merch, we've sold a lot of it. Post pictures, tag us in it, and shout us out. We'll shout you out back. Thanks to everybody that supported that bought one of these original blue, the OG tees, man. I had to bust it out for nostalgia purposes. How many of y'all can say you got a free car in 2020? Talking about focusing on positives. I got a free car. It's an old car. Not gonna win any beauty contests, but actually, my uncle's friend had found out that I had my car stolen, and he had a car that was just taking up room in the driveway, and I got a free motherfucking car in 2020. So I'm thankful for that. Focus on things that you're thankful for that happened in 2020. And get out of that, oh, fuck 2020 is the worst year ever. Get out of that. That doesn't do anybody any good. Find some things that you were thankful for that happened to you this year. Because for most people out there, I bet some good shit happened to you this year. And you don't want to forget about that or just cloud it with negativity just because it's so in vogue to say how bad 2020 was. I got it. Also in October, I did my first burrito review. I'm a big fan of Dave at Barstool, and like all he does for the small restaurants, and he does the pizza reviews, and I love watching those. And I just like wanted to do something similar, and like in hopes to like drive more traffic to my YouTube channel, hopefully create just more fans of the brand, fans of the podcast, and I decided to start doing burrito reviews in October, and that's been a big hit, and I love doing them. I'm doing another one tomorrow, so tune in. But yeah, if you're a fan of like the Barstool Pizza reviews, and you want to maybe check out one of my burrito reviews, they're all on the Dreadful Talk Podcast YouTube channel. So go over there, like, subscribe, check out my burrito reviews, and yeah, if you're a fan of Mexican food or just food reviews, food vlogs, check it out. November came around. I got the Beefy Boys merch, which those are a big hit. I still have some smalls and some double XLs. The t-shirts look just like this sign. Same color scheme and everything. So yeah, got some smalls and some double X's. You even share, maybe if you share some of my videos, like and subscribe, I may give you one for free. So, support the podcast, support the movement. You go scratch our back, we'll scratch yours for sure. I got a $20 Friday the 13th tattoo. It's like a little origami outline of my dog, Holly. And I had never gotten one of those. I've always it's one of those things you pass the tattoo shop on Friday the 13th and you kind of laugh. And one night, back when me and my wife first started dating, we were drunk in San Francisco and we almost did it, but thankfully we decided not to. But I don't know if it's quarantine got us bored or whatever. What up, DC Cards Collector? If you're fans of sports cards, go check out his Instagram, DC_cards_collector. He's given me good deals in the past. Great guy to get sports cards from. Appreciate you tuning in, brother. And yeah, man, anybody watching on a different platform, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, I do these podcasts live on Instagram, and you can comment and say hi and be a part of the live action. My Instagram is at Dreadful Talk Dom, and yeah, we do Beefy Boys and Dreadful Talk live on Instagram, so you can watch live, be a part of the show. So I finally just said fuck it, it's 2020, and Happy New Year's to everybody. Happy New Year's. Ending 2020, just kind of doing a year in review. It hasn't all been bad. I know everybody wants to focus on the negatives of 2020, and I just think that if we all take a second and peel the onion back a little bit, we've all had some good things happen to us in 2020 as well, and some things we can be thankful for. And I think that needs to be the spirit moving into 2021, that to kind of get everybody back on the right track. Just, you know, we got to be more positive, and I think that could do everybody a lot of good. It's December. I know it's the last day of December right now. It's been a good month for me. Got to experience winter Tahoe, which is a whole another ball game from summer Tahoe. It's so gorgeous, a whole different type of beauty. I went snowboarding for the first time since I was 14 years old. It was 12 years in between snowboarding sessions. Survived without killing myself. I actually didn't even really eat it hard at all. I pretty much remembered. It came back pretty quick, muscle memory. So yeah, man, that's another thing. I had people, I'm 26 years old. I had people messaging me saying like, oh, you're crazy. You're going to get hurt. We're too old for that. Live your life. Like, we going to be really old one day, and we not going to be able to do shit like that. Like, yeah, was I a little more sore than when I was 15? Well, did I have to ice my knees after? Yeah, but like, it's called maintenance. It's called taking care of your body. It's called being active. Like, don't just sit on the, like, people, you know, they graduate high school, you know, and just get fat and sit around and quit doing anything, and all in the name, oh, I don't want to get hurt. Like, man, like, what's more unhealthy? Having an injury that resulted from a physical activity, or having no physical activity? Like, the answer is obvious. Like, you got to kind of risk it for the biscuit a little bit. You got to kind of give and take. Like, yeah, I mean, there's no risk. You could get hurt driving to the grocery store, getting a car wreck. Like, you can't just avoid. It's so gross to me when people my own age, like, act like we're old and act like we can't do physical activities, or like we're out of our prime. Like, you realize that, like, an NBA player, like 26, 27, 28, like, that's your prime. There's people out there really saying, like, you're too old to snowboard and skateboard whenever, quite literally, your physical prime as, like, a man. Like, get out of here with that. You're living life wrong, man. Drink some fucking water and do a physical activity. How about that? And then this month got the long sleeve Dreadful Talk shirts in. I still got plenty of those, but I'm running low on the larges and XL. So shout out to everybody that's been buying up those sizes. But I think I have plenty of smalls, mediums, and double X's left. And the long sleeve, those things are super cozy, super warm. They're the perfect long sleeve. Like, I'm not even just, like, they're way better than these ones. Like, if you like these ones, or you like the beefy, they're like, I got the extra better quality material. They're like a whole nother level up from these, which, you know, I love these, and shout out to everyone that bought one. But these orange long sleeves, next level, highly recommend. DM me if you want to order. Get them shipped out to you, doing shipping nationwide. It'll be there within the week. And then we did our first ever Beefy Boys Prime Cuts Awards. That episode is on YouTube. We go out and we award all the best categories for, like, best male fighter of the year, best female fighter of the year, knockout of the year, submission of the year, breakout fighter of the year. We even do, like, commentator of the year, some fun categories. We did chin of the year, which is a Beefy Boys exclusive. No other MMA awards show gave out chin of the year. We came up with that. So, yeah, go check out that episode. It's on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Beefy Boys Breakdown on YouTube. It does me a huge favor. I appreciate that. And yeah, man. So, man, 2020, like I said, what a year. A year we'll never forget. A year that will be in textbooks and history books. And definitely none of us will forget. Like, I feel like this is kind of our... hopefully, you know, the struggle of our generation, hopefully it don't get worse. Hopefully, you know, we make it through this and things get better. Like, I don't know. I feel like when we're old, how, like, we asked our grandparents or great grandparents about the Depression or World War II or just turbulent times in the country. Like, this is what our grandkids are going to be asking us about, y'all, 2020. So I hope you took notes like I did, because we don't be telling your grandkids fake news and bullshit, you know, stories, man. Make sure you telling your kids the truth, passing along the story of you know, everything that we've all gone through. You know, everybody's 2020 looked differently, and everybody's, you know, had different obstacles. But I think the common theme is that we all had obstacles, and that, well, we you know, worked to overcome them. And in a lot of ways, we got, you know, closer with our families. And there are good things that came out of 2020 for sure. Yeah, Conor and Poirier coming up in 26 days. Great point. I I'm leaning Conor. Poirier likes to eat shots. He can eat shots. He has a master of a chin. He almost won Chin of the Year in our Prime Cuts Awards. We did give him Fight of the Year for his fight with Dan Hooker. But he's definitely willing to eat shots to give shots. And when you're fighting a guy with the one-stroke touch of death power that Conor McGregor possesses in that left hand, he eats the wrong left of Conor. It could be a short night. I gotta say though, Conor's had a history of cardio problems in the past, and it's and so I think if it makes it to rounds 4 and 5, it's a 5-round fight, main event fight. If it makes it into the 4th and 5th rounds, Poirier I think does get the advantage, because if it makes it to the 4th and 5th rounds, that means that his chin has held up and he's been able to eat McGregor's best stuff. And then that's whenever his cardio and his experience tends to become more, and maybe the grappling can become more of a. I think that the scale starts to tip to Poirier in the 4th and 5th round. So on a betting tip, if you're betting Conor, bet him by knockout and you'll get a better number. And if you're betting Poirier, bet Poirier to go the distance in a decision. If Poirier wins, I think it's going to be by decision. I don't think he's knocking out or submitting Conor. I could be wrong. But I think if you want to get value from a betting perspective, you either bet the Conor knockout or the Poirier decision. And either way, you'll get a way better number than if you just bet it against the money line straight up. But yeah, cannot wait for that fight. Any Conor fight is a monumental event and kind of a spectacle in and of itself. It kind of deserves its own category apart from other UFC pay-per-view cards, which the UFC's raising the pay-per-view prices right before that card. So, I know I'm going to fucking pony up those cocksuckers. But, yeah, they're going to milk us for an extra $10 per pay-per-view in 2021. So, that's something we can all look forward to, UFC fans. But, want to end this on just some goals for myself for 2021. I'm a big fan of writing goals down, like checklist, and trying to manifest your goals. And so I'm going to say them live right here, and to all my listeners and viewers, I'm going to hold myself accountable. Feel free to call me out. I think that my goals for 2021 are going to be 500 subs on YouTube. Whether that be Dreadful Talk or Beefy Boys, if any of them get to 500 subs, I would be a happy, happy man. So help me out with that, y'all. You guys can help me accomplish my 2021 goals right now by subscribing and liking on Beefy Boys Breakdown on YouTube and Dreadful Talk Podcast on YouTube. Please do me a solid. Help me out. And then I want to get out of the Bay Area. By the end of 2021, I want to be living in somewhere, the Reno, Tahoe, Carson City, that region. I want to get on the Nevada side on the border so I can buy myself a real fucking gun and not be taxed, 12% of my paycheck. But it's still close. It's a 4-hour drive from the Bay. Tahoe is literally paradise, heaven on earth. I'll be 20 minutes from Tahoe. I want my kids, I want the next place I move to be like where my kids grow up and like where I want to raise my family. And I don't want my kids stepping over human shit in the Bay Area and looking at gang graffiti. Like, I'm sorry. I know some of y'all ratchet motherfuckers want y'all kids to grow up to be, gangster of the year or whatever. But I don't want that life for my future children. I want my kids to be little mountain kids, to be snowboarding and fucking skateboarding and riding jet skis at the lake and that type of shit, man. I don't want my kids, I just don't want them dealing with that shit, stepping over heroin baggies and needles and shit like that, man. Like I said, I'm a grown man. I can deal with that. I'm not losing no sleep whenever I step over that shit. But I'm not trying to, have my youngest next generation come up like about that. Carson City is way more affordable than the Bay Area. Get ourselves a nice little home, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to it. That's my goal. So my goal so far, I need 500 subs on YouTube. Y'all can help me with that. I want to move to Carson City. Y'all can't help me with that. That's on me. But I'm going to make it happen. And then I want to have a pro athlete or a former pro athlete, one of the two, on the podcast. Those are my 3 goals. I think they're accomplishable goals. You know, I'm not going to write down like be a millionaire by 2021. Like, no, I mean, obviously I'm not going to be mad if that happens, but, you know, set realistic, achievable goals for your 2021. And I wish you and your families and your goals, you know, I want all my friends and all the people, all my viewers and all the people I care about and know to set goals and accomplish those goals in 2021. If I could have my wish, you know, with that Ray J, if I had one wish, no, it's funny, but if I had one wish, it's that simple, because there's no one size fits all solution. I want people to set their own goals and envision how they want their life to look and feel next year, and I want you to go over your definition of success and go after it. Everybody's definition of success looks differently, and that's okay. You know, everybody's into different things. Everybody goes at a different pace. Everybody's dealing with different struggles. So I want people also, my message to be, stop being in so much competition or looking at the next man or comparing yourself to these people who y'all's stories are different than, y'all's struggles, y'all's obstacles are different than, y'all's paths, y'all's lanes, y'all's road to success is paved out of different material, and that's okay. Like your competition should be like you being productive that day. Like your competition is the clock. It's the as Joe Rogan would say, conquering your inner bitch. Like when you don't want to do something, you don't want to wake up, you don't want to buckle down, you don't want to, you gotta be mentally focused, mentally strong. As Joe Rogan would say, the great JRE, he says, you know, conquer your inner bitch. Like we all got it. The toughest, most disciplined motherfucker got that lazy little bitch in the back of his head trying to tell him to sleep in or you know, bullshit something off, and you just got to take care of biz, accomplish what you need to accomplish that day, you know, put one foot in front of the other, just work towards your goals, and I think by the end of 2021, you'd be surprised as to how close to those goals, you know, you find yourself, but man, I could not have had even as close to a good of 2020 as I did without each and one of y'all. Anybody that's bought merch, anybody that shared a video, that subscribed on YouTube, that, you know, just supported me, even just reached out and sent a message saying, hey, I enjoyed it, or hey, I love what you're doing. You know, I keep it up. Shout out Parker Blackburn, man. I was scrolling through just old stuff, going through my year in review, and I found this comment on my second ever live, before it was even called Dreadful Talk, where Parker Blackburn, shout out the homie, he was like, man, like, you got this, bro. Like America needs your podcast right now. And then he believed in me before it even had a name. So shout out Parker Blackburn. Shout out everybody that's bought some merch. I have plenty of merch still available. And yeah, thanks to everybody that support. Anybody that wants to be a sponsor of the podcast, shoot me a DM, reach out. We are still have sponsorship slots available. And just everybody be a part of this growth, be a part of this journey, because I want to take people along with me, you know. It's going to be mutually beneficial to, you know, using this platform and helping each other just network and grow, and regardless of what fields we're in, we can all work together. And I'm talking to anybody watching this, you know, anybody that wants to be a part, or, you know, wants to network, wants to grow, wants to be a part of something. You know, we can all make that work. We can all make that function. But this was episode 30. I gotta say, it feels kind of weird and satisfying to like end 2020 on a nice round clean number like 30. Got 30 episodes in. Probably be close. I hope to be over 50 episodes next year. Man, I can't wait to hit that triple digits. Oh man. But yeah, shout out to What Up D-Style. I was just talking about you earlier on the podcast, man. I told the story about how we went and watched George play on Monday night, and how we kicked it with them boys after the game. That was a good-ass night. But I'm just about to end the live. That's the only reason I'm not going to bring you in. But thank you so much for tuning in. You the homie. Shout out to everybody that watched the live. Everybody make sure to go subscribe on YouTube, please. That does me a huge favor. Share some videos from my YouTube. That really helps me out. Love y'all. Hope your 2021 is filled with, dream chasing and checking goals off your list and making progress in whatever it is that you want to make progress in. Like I said, that looks different for all of us. I'm looking forward to getting, back to whatever normal is going to be in the future. Who knows? I sure wouldn't mind being able to go to an Oakland A's game at some point in 2021. Fingers crossed. God damn it, that would be amazing. I said, Happy New Year's, everybody. Here's to 2021. And here's to the end of 2020. And here's to those we lost in 2020. And here's to those that were born in 2020. It's just about, time goes on. And we hope 2021 can be better. But guess what? Even if 2021 gets worse, you're still going to have to find a way and adjust and survive. And that's what, people have been doing since the beginning of time. So here's the 2020, the end of 2020 and the start of 2021. Thanks for everybody that's been a part of this journey for both of these podcasts and everybody that plans to be a part of the journey moving forward. Hope everybody has a great and safe night. Get home to your family safe tonight, y'all. Don't go out and catch COVID tonight, y'all. Don't go give nobody COVID tonight, y'all. And don't, most importantly, make sure don't take somebody else's loved ones away from them. You know what I'm saying? Because of a selfish, stupid decision. So enter 2021 with the right energy, doing the right thing. Just, you know what I'm saying? I'm not telling you not to turn up. You never heard me say that. Get as lit as you want to. Just be safe, you know what I'm saying? Don't make your problem somebody else's problem.